Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Contractually Speaking. My name is Matt Patel, COO and co-founder at Malbek. We're an enterprise CLM platform. And today I have the pleasure of having Patrick Reymann from IDC Research. Patrick has focused a lot on procurement and a lot of research in the recent past. And Patrick, please say hello to our audience.
Yeah, good to see you again, Matt. Hi, I'm Patrick Reymann. As Matt said, my title is Research Director for Procurement Applications and Agents at IDC. And so broadly, I cover the procurement application space, which is inclusive of buy-side CLM.
Oh, thank you, Patrick. Looking forward to our conversation. So in today's podcast, let's focus on a few key areas. First, lay of the land and the current state of procurement, which you have deeply focused on, and what their main pain points are. And then I want to dive a little bit into some recent AI LLM developments, including the cost of LLM rising as people look at scale and not just one contract, but thousands of contracts. And also the Anthropic Claude Cowork plugin that recently came out and what that means for procurement professionals and platforms like CLM for that matter. So with that said, more recently in your research, you've been looking at procurement and how the landscape is changing, technologies that they're looking at, including CLM, ERP, and supplier systems. Tell me a little bit about the evolution and what you were hearing and seeing from procurement professionals.
Yeah, it's really a transformative time that we're living in. I mean, you could say that across the entire SaaS universe, but especially in procurement. Whoever would have thought that procurement would be a hot, trendy, buzzworthy space, right? Forever, it's just been this sleepy back office function. But that is definitely not the case today. Now, some of that certainly, some of the things that contributed to that, were the post-pandemic supply chain crunch, the need for supply visibility, the importance of a seamless view to sources of supply. That all raised to elevate the procurement place at large. Now we have, November 2022, OpenAI released ChatGPT, and immediately procurement applications were there, infusing Gen AI throughout their platforms. And now, move forward to where we are now, we're in the agentic age, and that we're never going back. The future is decidedly agentic, and the capabilities and functionality that this presents and the possibilities really are dramatic. And so, the procurement practitioner, I kind of joke, but it's not a joke. My first theorem of procurement is was, always will be about savings. And I think that's still true. But with respect to, as the procurement buyer is looking at applications across the space, they're most interested in ROI and time to value, right? And so, our advice to providers, too often providers kind of lead with these conversations with agents, and that's probably not the right approach. You want to lead with ROI, time to value. And oh, by the way, here's how our agentic platform delivers those things for you. But there seems to be this race to provide agents, and a lot of providers like to promote the number of agents that they have, which is certainly that's where everything's going. But ultimately it's ROI and time to value. And so, truthfully, buyers need help making sense of all of that, because every provider that they talk to, they start talking about agents, and that's a good way to lose people really quickly. So you're never going to be wrong if you lead with ROI, time to value, and just that seamless, coherent, intuitive user experience.
That is true. And I think it's time for vendors or platforms that sell into procurement to show return on the investment rather than how much is going to cost and, hey, I'm going to reduce your costs, I'll give you these discounts, but it's more like staying with the value of your solution and how it can help you save. As you said, procurement is all about savings. I know it's looked at as the organization that is spending for the company by contracting with vendors. But how can you get the most out of your vendor by being fair, of course, but also
Mm.
getting what you need at the right price?
Right.
In contracting with the vendors from a procurement side, I have a question for you, just for your opinion. Oftentimes, business users are being in procurement, hey, I need this done because I got to start working with this vendor or the consultant or the provider, whatever the counterparty is. When can you get it done? And procurement has to deal with third party paper, right? More often than not. And they need legal to review. And they don't want to rush it because you got to make sure not only are you getting the best price from the vendor, but also the terms.
Yeah.
Do you have termination in there? What kind of liability are you signing up? Are you protecting the company if this vendor is going to have your PII information, if they're using AI technologies? How secure is it? There's a lot that they have to go through. Is that responsibility lying on procurement to, at the end of the day, if they have a wrong clause, is it procurement's responsibility, or do you think legal or risk compliance need to own that?
Yeah, oftentimes it does fall to procurement. And it's just kind of another example of the things that ultimately fall to procurement. It really serves to highlight the value of I overuse the word seamless, but a seamless CLM platform that has so much of this built in. And it's I'm a former procurement practitioner myself, and I would love to be able to use these tools today in that role I used to have, because the ability to generate an NDA or an agreement on somebody else's paper, that process has been the speed of execution is remarkable. The ability to do that almost on the fly, and in concert with that is the just the transparency where you can see at any time exactly where a document is in the status, who has the action. You can build a team and see which team members, and within the app you can send notes. You have that audit trail baked in. You can send notes and get action. It's it's a great thing. It's great to see, and it really has transformed the speed of execution, really in the whole. I'll say contracting space, for lack of a better word. So it does fall to procurement oftentimes, and but again, that helps to bring teams together. That is necessarily going to include IT, security, compliance, and legal, but it's all together in a single platform that really facilitates execution.
And I think with the newest technology, agents and AI, procurement is better enabled to make those kinds of decisions because they have a lot of insight at their fingertips. What kind of terms have I negotiated in the past with that vendor or maybe similar vendors? They don't have to guess, or they don't have to start from scratch. There's a lot of insight already if you have a good contracting system and the repository of history of your contracts.
Absolutely. It's that real time risk identification, but it even goes further than that. It's that real time risk mitigation to surface those. If we change these terms, etc., what is the impact to my business? And that at the point of decision. It's not an iterative process. It is real time on the fly. Tremendous capability.
So let's pivot to that productivity efficiency gains that procurement can see now with the latest technology and the recent research you published, I think a week or two ago with Ryan on the evolution of Anthropic and even other LLMs are growing into this space. Anthropic launched a plugin for legal, and it's making a lot of noise. What are your thoughts on how that will help and what it'll do to the enterprise platforms in the market today?
Yeah, it's first of all, it should be welcome, and I welcome it. I think it surfaces and shines a light on the CLM function. And so, I joined with my peer. You referenced Ryan O'Leary. He is IDC's resident legal tech expert. I'm more focused on the buy side. He's focused on the sell side. And we say, hey, we need to write something, get ahead of this, because I mean, it just blew up, and it was a shock wave. It really was. And so we looked at it and we thought, maybe this is counterintuitive, but first of all, we came to the conclusion that this didn't represent a threat to the CLM space, and in fact, if anything, it is more additive. Additive because we think it'll have the purpose of highlighting the full capabilities of a CLM platform. I mean, this is a utility. It's a contract triage utility. There's value in that without question, but truthfully, that offering, I mean, that's table stakes in the CLM space, and that's been available for years now in the CLM space. So if I'm going to leverage that, which people should try it out, but then that'll help me to understand. Okay, what about the next step? What about all the pre-signature activities that I care about, all the post-signature activities that I care about, obligations management, the risk assessment and mitigation that we talked about, the ability to do these on-the-fly assessments with respect to, for example, how is my organization doing with respect to adhering to the payment terms that are resident in my contract? All of those things, tremendous utility there. So we think it's a good thing overall because it shines a light on CLM, and we think it's going to really focus the attention on all of those full suite capabilities that are available today.
And speaking as a CLM vendor, for me, I think personally it pushes us and all the CLM vendors to do more and better, because this is about keeping up with expectations and what technology can do. It's like, a decade ago, people thought, oh, electric cars, I can never drive it. Tesla started to promote and look at where they are now, and they've set a benchmark. All other electric companies are trying to keep their battery life and charging mechanisms and everything to meet that expectation. So in a way, Anthropic and other LLMs to follow are setting a new standard of how easy it should be, how accurate it needs to be, and how cost effective it has to be. Right. And for CLMs, including us at Malbek, we already integrate with Claude as one of the LLMs. And it allows us to not only leverage this, but also provide functionality to leverage that and more on top of it. Because contract management systems, we have a repository, we have historical positions, we have your workflow details and things that you allowed as an exception, more insight into your past contracting strategies to be combined with what LLMs can do on a new paper or a new contract is pretty powerful. And it allows procurement professionals to almost have that next level of power. The X-ray vision, as Ed on our CMO calls it. If I had 100,000 contracts, and if I can have X-ray vision, how much insight can I get out of it? Right?
Yep. Right. Yeah, it really kind of, the space at large is transforming from what we think of CLM to really your agentic legal OS, if you will. It's just like this intelligence network. I think you said it well, because there's gold in there. I mean, there's untapped gold that, I mean, I don't have to explain this to you, but I mean, the intelligence that's available but untapped, there's so many opportunities, and it helps to think about not just the traditional static contract management function. It is transforming into this document intelligence OS that offers so much that really, like I said, thus far is relatively untapped.
And we're coining the term for this the commercial intelligence platform, because now it's not about just a contract review, single contract review, red line authoring. Everybody has it. A lot of AI tools, playbooks exist. CLMs have that as a feature. But for the chief procurement officer or chief revenue officer or chief finance officer, in fact, take any C-level executive, they want to make decisions quickly based on what's buried in those contracts. Imagine recent developments. I mean, COVID is old now, but back then people were struggling to see, okay, what can I terminate based on force majeure events? Recently, last year, tariffs impacted a lot of suppliers, and can I increase price? Now, maybe this year with new government regulations, especially if you're in certain industries like sciences, manufacturing, energy, you might have situations where, hey, I'm trying to make a strategic decision, and this new government regulation is going to impact who I can sell to and what price, and if there's any caps around it. Go look at my 10,000 similar agreements and tell me where I'm going to be impacted and what kind of financial impact I'm looking at. These LLMs are capable of doing that. So, are there use cases that you can think of, or how can procurement now think at scale? Because I want to get into the cost of LLMs next, but first, understanding that power of AI is no longer just a single contract, but think commercial intelligence and across the repository to help you make key decisions, whether it's decreasing supplier spend or increasing price on renewal, or however your cost or revenue is impacted across your agreements.
So one area that I'm particularly excited about from the perspective of the procurement practitioner is related to sourcing and intelligence that informs pricing decisions. So oftentimes that information is just not available to the procurement practitioner. But increasingly, we're seeing that information and intelligence baked into the platform so that it's ready there on the fly, available at the point of decision. And so that is leveraging both historical information based upon past purchasing behaviors, but also it layers in this predictive element that can account for example, forecasted geopolitical events or economic events, maybe an inflationary period or deflationary period. So to kind of inform that, the negotiation posture that will inform what is the best pricing that I should reasonably be seeking to achieve through this negotiation. And that's again that's real time, and that's happening today.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's only going to get bigger, better, and more complex. I think the skill set also, I've seen a lot of people talk about this, how us professionals in any role, and especially in procurement, as we look at our careers ahead, our skills have to evolve with AI being at the center, and how to make the most of it. Prompt engineering, leveraging agents, building agents, even if that's possible, in your role, all will come into play as we go ahead. The last thing I wanted to touch on is the ever evolving cost of AI technologies and LLMs, because this is one of those, it's like the candy. You take a bite, you love it, and you want more, and you want more, and you want more. And now the expectations are so high from large language models and generative AI capabilities in general. People don't want to just do this for one document. They want to do it for 1,000, 10,000, 100,000. And that's a very costly, call, right? There were some posts about that I saw there. The vendor's monthly bill for LLM was, 50,000 or 100,000 because customers are just using it a lot.
Yeah.
So platforms are evolving in how they price it. But tell me your thoughts, how you see pricing changing.
It's the topic of the day for sure. It's a challenge. What the CFO the CFO does not like cost uncertainty. So if an organization is going to be faced with costs that have the potential to be widely variable month to month, or costs that they cannot reasonably forecast, that's bad. That's bad, and that's going to turn people off, and that's going to be a tremendous disincentive. So obviously, the challenge is like you said, with greater usage means more costs. So how is it priced such that you know users can be given that some level of visibility, uh, but also such that is not widely variable. You know, buyers have shown that they accept that there's going to be an AI uplift, if you will. That's generally accepted. Um, but then the challenge comes to, okay, what am I getting for that uplift? And that gets back to the whole ROI discussion. Is they need to see the ROI so that they're comfortable with those, whatever that uplift is. So I said in another piece I wrote earlier this year, if 2025 was the year of AI experimentation and pilots, 2026 is the year of AI show me. In other words, I need to see the value, I need to see the ROI, and that's, I mean, that's a discussion that is happening right now. Providers across the board are trying to figure out what is that optimal pricing strategy.
And for vendors like us, it's a similar challenge. How do you price things? Because it's unknown. I cannot predict how many documents or pages you will process, and how do you calculate ROI? Because this is not an immediate, tangible, hey, if you use it today, I'm going to save you $100. It's more like if you have legal team or procurement team that spends hours a month or every quarter for the board meeting, or on an annual strategy meeting, you're spending weeks to analyze contracts. What's that cost? Or if you're using external counsel to review it, let's say you're planning to buy a company and there's going to be an M&A. If that company has a lot of agreements where they might terminate for convenience, or change of control means you lose that customer, that should all be part of the buying equation.
Right.
You know the true value of that company before you decide to buy them at a certain price. What's the cost of that analysis? And that's the ROI that tools like these will provide, but that's not immediate. Like, you have to have a foresight that if I invest in it now, over the next 1, 2, 3 years of expected growth, possible M&A transaction, strategy meetings, board meetings, analysis that I have to do, government regulations changing, here's how much I can save, and I'm willing to take that chance. I think the whole narrative is changing, the equation is changing. And while pricing might come down for LLMs per token, and we don't like to talk about tokens because it's a very complicated formula, use of tokens will increase. So in a way, is it balancing it out, or will it actually grow in cost, right?
Right. Yeah. It's like I said, it consumes so many of my conversations these days because it's all happening right now, and all those conversations are happening right now.
What kind of, in closing, for our audience and for those who track IDC research, any planned research for this year that is going to go deeper into this area?
Well, in addition to our foundational report is the MarketScape. Those are, in sectors we do a deep dive into your assessment. I have several of those planned. But beyond that, uh, we've been pumping out a lot about I'll say that the agentic assistants, the co-works and the um, excuse me, Claudebot. What it's gone through different iterations. We've been talking a lot about that. There's this whole idea of, this introduces the whole theme of, okay, should we build or buy? And it's a fair question that organizations should ask themselves. but there's a lot, building it is the easiest and least expensive part of building and deploying. Then there's the deployment. There's a lot there too. We've been writing a lot about that, and just the overall, the continued infusion of the agentic evolution, certainly in the procurement application space, but really across the entire SaaS universe. So we've been doing a lot of writing on all of those areas.
Yeah, no, looking forward to that. And as you know, Malbek is definitely watching and tracking all the IDC research. We look forward to further collaboration with you and your team. And I appreciate your time and insights for our audience today on this podcast. Thank you, Patrick.
Yep, great to see you again, Matt. Thank you.
Thank you so much.